Jake Martinez wiped the grease from his hands and looked around his empty repair shop. The place felt too quiet. No ships waited outside for repairs. No customers walked through his doors asking for help. His tools sat clean on their shelves, because he had nothing to fix. The last customer had left 3 days ago, and before that, it had been almost a week. He walked to the window and stared out at Kepler Station. The mining colony looked tired under the dim light of its red sun. Most of the big companies had moved their operations to newer stations with better equipment and faster service. They left behind people like Jake who could not afford to upgrade their shops or move to better locations. Jake's repair shop had been his father's before him. The old man had built it with his own hands when Kepler Station was young and full of promise. Back then, every day brought new ships needing repairs. Miners, traders, and explorers all came to Martinez Repairs because they knew the work would be done right. But those days were gone. The bills kept coming even when the customers did not. Jake owed money for parts he had ordered months ago. He owed money for the power that kept his shop running. He owed money for the small apartment above the shop where he lived alone. Every morning he woke up hoping today would bring enough work to pay for tomorrow. Lightning flashed outside, followed by the deep rumble of thunder that shook the station's metal walls. An ion storm was building in the upper atmosphere. Jake watched the weather display on his computer turn from yellow to red. No ships would be flying tonight. The storm would ground everything until it passed. He was about to close up and go upstairs to his lonely dinner when he heard the crash. Sound was different from thunder. It was sharper, closer, and followed by the screech of metal against rock. Jake grabbed his emergency kit and ran outside. The rain hit him like cold needles. The ion storm made the air taste like metal and filled it with strange lights that danced between the buildings. Jake followed the sound of hissing steam and crackling electricity until he found the source. An escape pod sat wedged between 2 storage containers behind his shop. The small craft was barely recognizable. Its hull was burned black and covered with dents. Sparks shot from broken systems and coolant leaked onto the wet ground. The emergency beacon on top flashed a weak red light. Jake ran to the pod's hatch and tried to open it. The mechanism was jammed. He went back to his shop and returned with a crowbar and cutting torch. The metal was hot even in the cold rain, but he managed to force the hatch open. Steam poured out, carrying the smell of burned electronics and something else he could not identify. Inside the pod, 3 figures lay unconscious. A woman in her 30s had blood on her forehead and bruises on her arms. Next to her, 2 children slept fitfully. The boy looked about 8 years old, and the girl was maybe 6. Their clothes were strange. The fabric felt different from anything Jake had touched before, smoother and stronger than normal cloth. The woman stirred as Jake checked her pulse. Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused and confused. She tried to sit up, but fell back with a groan of pain. "Easy," Jake said. "You crashed. You're hurt. I'm going to help you." The woman looked at him with eyes that seemed older than her face. She said something in a language Jake did not understand, then switched to accented English. "My children, are they safe?" "They're alive," Jake told her, "but we need to get all of you inside. This storm isn't safe." The woman tried to stand, but her legs would not hold her. Jake lifted the little girl first, surprised by how light she felt. The boy woke up as Jake picked him up. He looked around with bright, intelligent eyes and said nothing. The woman leaned on Jake's shoulder as they made their way to the shop. Apartment above the shop was small but warm. He laid the children on his bed and helped the woman to a chair. She watched him with careful eyes as he brought water and checked their injuries. The children had only small cuts and bruises, but the woman had a head injury that worried him. I should call the medical center, Jake said. No. The woman's voice was sharp with fear. Please, no authorities. Not yet. Jake studied her face. He had seen that look before in people who were running from something. What's your name? Lisa, she said after a moment. Lisa Cameron. These are my children, Danny and Emma. I'm Jake Martinez. This is my shop. He sat down across from her. Where did you come from? That pod wasn't designed for long-distance travel. Lisa's hands shook as she touched the bandage Jake had put on her forehead. We were on a transport ship. There was an accident. We had to use the escape pod. Jake knew she was not telling him everything, but he did not push. People had their reasons for keeping secrets, especially when they crashed alone in the middle of nowhere during an ion storm. The little girl, Emma, woke up and started crying for her mother. Lisa went to comfort her, moving carefully because of her injuries. Danny sat up and looked around the room with those bright eyes. Are you hungry? Jake asked. All three of them nodded. Jake realized he had not seen them eat or drink anything since the crash. He went to his small kitchen and found what food he had. It was not much. Some bread, a can of soup, and fruit that was getting old. He heated the soup and made sandwiches, trying to stretch the meal for 4 people instead of 1. They ate in silence. Jake watched Lisa and her children and saw how hungry they were. They finished everything he put in front of them and looked like they wanted more. Jake gave them the last of his food and told himself he would find something for breakfast tomorrow. You can sleep in my bed tonight, Jake told them. I'll take the couch. We cannot pay you, Lisa said quietly. Jake shrugged. Did I ask for payment? Lisa looked at him for a long moment. Why are you helping us? Jake thought about that. He could have called the authorities when he found the pod. He could have let someone else deal with the crashed strangers. Instead, he had brought them home and given them his food and his bed. Because you needed help, he said simply. Outside, the ion storm raged through the night, but inside the small apartment above the repair shop, 4 people found warmth and safety together. Jake did not know that this simple act of kindness would change everything. He did not know that the woman and children he had saved carried secrets that would reshape the future of all humanity. All he knew was that tomorrow would bring new challenges. And tonight, 3 strangers would sleep safely because one man chose to help rather than turn away. Jake woke up on his couch with a stiff neck and the smell of cooking food in his nose. He had given Lisa and her children his bed, but he had not expected them to be up before him making breakfast. He walked to the kitchen and found Lisa at his small stove, somehow creating a meal from ingredients he was sure he did not have. Good morning, Lisa said without turning around. I hope you don't mind. I found some things in your storage area. Jake looked at the food she was preparing. The eggs looked fresher than any he remembered buying. The bread was warm as if it had just been baked. I don't remember having most of this stuff. Lisa smiled but did not explain. She served him a plate of food that tasted better than anything he had eaten in months. Danny and Emma sat at his small table, eating quietly and watching him with those bright, intelligent eyes. After breakfast, Jake went down to his shop to start his daily routine of checking for customers who would probably not come. To his surprise, he found a cargo hauler waiting outside. The pilot, a gruff man named Pete Collins, had a fusion drive that was making strange noises. Been putting this off for weeks, Pete said. But last night, I had a dream about my engine exploding, so here I am. Jake opened the hauler's engine compartment and immediately saw the problem. The fusion coils were misaligned, and the containment field was fluctuating. It was a complex repair that would normally take him all day, assuming he could get the specialized parts. I'll need to order some components, Jake told Pete. could take a few days. Actually, Lisa's voice came from behind him. She had come down from the apartment with her children. "May I look?" Jake was about to say no when Lisa stepped past him and examined the engine. She ran her hands over the fusion coils, not touching them, but somehow sensing their condition. The magnetic field generators are out of phase by 0.7 degrees. If you adjust the primary resonance frequency and recalibrate the containment matrix, the problem should resolve. Jake stared at her. Those were not words that refugees from a transport accident should know. Lisa seemed to realize she had said too much because she stepped back quickly. "I used to work with engines," she said quietly. Pete looked skeptical, but Jake was curious enough to try Lisa's suggestion. He made the adjustments she had described, even though some of them seemed impossible with his basic equipment. When he started the engine, it ran perfectly. The strange noises were gone, and the power output was actually higher than normal. Pete paid Jake more money than he had seen in weeks, and left with his ship running better than it had in years. Word spread quickly through the small community of pilots and traders. By afternoon, 3 more ships had arrived for repairs. Each time, Lisa appeared and quietly suggested improvements that Jake would never have thought of. A mining ship's gravity generator that had been failing for months suddenly worked like new. A trader's navigation computer that had been giving wrong coordinates started plotting perfect courses. A transport's life support system that had been consuming too much power became incredibly efficient. Jake found himself busier than he had been in months, but the work felt almost too easy. Every repair that had seemed impossible became simple when Lisa was nearby. He started watching her more carefully and noticed things that made no sense. When she thought no one was looking, Lisa would touch broken equipment and it would start working. She never seemed to use tools, and she understood systems that Jake had never seen before. Her children were just as strange. Danny could look at a computer screen and somehow know what was wrong with the programming. Emma would hum strange melodies while the adults worked, and complex machinery would respond to the sound by running more smoothly. That evening, after the last customer had left, Jake confronted Lisa. "What's really going on here?" "You're not refugees from a transport accident." Lisa sat down heavily at his workbench. She looked tired, as if keeping secrets was exhausting. "We are refugees. That part is true. But not from where you said." Lisa was quiet for a long minute. Her children came down from the apartment and stood beside her, as if they could sense their mother needed support. "The place we came from is very far away," Lisa said finally. "Farther than you might believe. Try me." Lisa looked at Danny and Emma, and back at Jake. "We came from outside this part of space. Our people have been traveling among the stars for a very long time, longer than your history books record." Jake sat down across from her. "You're saying you're not human." "We are human," Lisa said firmly. "But we are not from the same branch of humanity that built this station. Your people developed technology to travel between stars recently. Our people left Earth when your ancestors were still learning to use fire." Jake felt his world shifting. "That's impossible." Danny spoke for the first time since the crash. His voice was young, but his words were carefully chosen. "Your star maps show the same constellations our ancestors recorded thousands of years ago. We are the children of the first humans to leave the home world. We call ourselves the first. Wanderers," Lisa continued. "We have been traveling through space longer than your civilization has existed. We developed technologies that your people have not yet discovered." Jake looked around his simple repair shop. "Then why are you here? Why did you crash?" Lisa's face grew sad. "Because we are the last ones. Our world was destroyed by an enemy that consumes entire planets. We escaped, but our ship was damaged beyond repair. The journey through space and time brought us here To this place, to this time. Emma, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. The bad things are coming. Mother says they follow the light we left behind. Lisa quickly put her hand on Emma's shoulder. Hush, little one. We are safe here. But Jake saw the fear in Lisa's eyes. What bad things? It doesn't matter, Lisa said quickly. We just need to stay hidden until we can figure out what to do next. Jake stood up and paced around his shop. Everything Lisa had told him sounded crazy, but it explained the strange things he had witnessed. It explained why the colonial computers could not process their identification when he had tried to register them earlier. It explained how Lisa knew so much about advanced technology. Prove it, Jake said. Lisa hesitated, then walked to a diagnostic machine that had been broken for over a year. She placed her hands on its surface and closed her eyes. The machine hummed to life, its screens displaying information in symbols Jake had never seen before. The symbols shifted and changed until they became familiar human letters and numbers. Our technology is based on principles your science has not yet developed, Lisa said. We can interface directly with quantum systems. We can manipulate energy and matter in ways that seem impossible to you. Jake stared at the working machine. If you can do all this, why do you need my help? Because our abilities require energy. And we are tired, Lisa said. The journey here drained us. We need time to recover, and we need someone we can trust. Jake looked at Lisa and her children. 3 days ago, they had been strangers who crashed near his shop. Now they were refugees from an ancient human civilization with technology beyond his understanding. It should have been impossible to believe, but the evidence was all around him. His repair shop was suddenly successful again. Machines that had been broken for months were working perfectly. Customers were coming back because word was spreading about the miraculous repairs. What do you want from me? Jake asked. Just what you have already given us, Lisa said. A safe place to stay while we decide what to do next. Jake nodded slowly. He was a simple mechanic who fixed broken things for a living. Now he was hiding. A family that possessed technology that could change the world. He did not understand everything that was happening, but he understood one thing clearly. These people needed his help, and Jake Martinez had never been the kind of man to turn away from someone in need, no matter how complicated their problems might be. Jake noticed the changes in Danny and Emma before Lisa realized he was watching. The children were not ordinary, even by the standards of refugees from an ancient civilization. They did things that made Jake question everything he thought he knew about human abilities. Danny would touch computer terminals, and their screens would light up with information that should have required passwords and security clearances. The 8-year-old boy could access shipping schedules, maintenance records, and system diagnostics just by placing his small hand on any interface panel. When Jake asked him how he did it, Danny would look confused and say it was easy. Like talking to a friend. Emma was even more unusual. The 6-year-old girl would hum quietly while Jake worked on engines, and the machinery would respond to her voice. Complex systems that should have taken hours to calibrate would align themselves perfectly when she sang her strange melodies. She would draw pictures of star patterns that did not match any navigation charts. Jake knew, but when he looked them up in the computer database, he found they were accurate maps of stellar regions thousands of light years away. The children seemed unaware that they were doing anything extraordinary. To them, interfacing with computers and influencing machinery was as natural as breathing. Jake began to understand that Lisa's family possessed abilities that went far beyond advanced technology. They had evolved into something more than the us of humans he knew. Lisa tried to keep her children's abilities hidden, but Jake's repair shop was too small for secrets. When a customer brought in a navigation computer that had been corrupted by a magnetic storm, Danny fixed it by touching the screen and thinking at it. The complex calculations that should have taken the computer hours to reconstruct happened in seconds. How did he do that? The customer asked. Kids good with computers, Jake said quickly, while Lisa pulled Danny away from the terminal. That night, after the customer left, Lisa sat Jake down for a serious conversation. Her children played quietly in the corner, but Jake noticed they were listening to every word. I need to tell you more about who we are, Lisa said, about what happened to our people. Jake poured himself coffee and waited. Over the past week, he had learned that Lisa only revealed information when she was ready, and pushing her for answers only made her more secretive. The first Wanderers did not just develop advanced technology, Lisa began. Over thousands of years in space, we changed. Our minds adapted to interface directly with the systems that kept us alive. Our bodies learned to process energy in ways that baseline humans cannot. Baseline humans? Humans like you. Humans who stayed close to Earth and developed along normal evolutionary paths. Lisa looked at her children with a mixture of pride and sadness. We became something new, something that could survive in the deep spaces between stars. Jake watched Danny manipulate a toy that transformed into different shapes without any visible mechanism. They're not just smart kids, are they? Danny can access quantum information networks directly through touch. Emma can influence electromagnetic fields with her voice. These are not learned skills. They were born with abilities that took our people millennia to develop. What about you? Lisa smiled sadly. I am old, Jake, much older than I look. My generation bridged the gap between what we were and what we became. I have some abilities, but nothing like what my children can do. Jake set down his coffee cup. Lisa, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. She nodded. Are there more of you out there? Are we going to see other first Wanderer ships? Lisa's face went pale. No, we are the last ones. Tell me what happened. Lisa was quiet for so long that Jake thought she would not answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. They came from outside our galaxy. We called them the Devourers because that is what they do. They consume worlds, stripping them of all matter and energy. They are not alive as we understand life. They are machines, but machines that think and adapt and hunger. Emma stopped playing with her toys and moved closer to her mother. Danny put down his shape-shifting puzzle and listened with adult seriousness. The Devourers found our home system when I was young, Lisa continued. We had built worlds around 3 stars, billions of our people living in harmony with technology that could reshape matter itself. We thought we were safe. We thought we were advanced enough to defend ourselves. What happened? They destroyed everything in 2 days. Our defenses were like toys to them. Our technology, which had seemed so advanced, was primitive compared to what they possessed. Most of our people died fighting. The rest scattered across the galaxy in whatever ships could escape. Jake felt cold despite the warmth of his apartment. How many survived? Thousands at first. But the Devourers hunt survivors. They followed our people across space, destroying every refuge we tried to build. Over the years, the number of survivors grew smaller and smaller. Danny spoke up. Uncle, Marcus died when I was 5. The bad machines found his ship. Aunt Catherine died last year, Emma added matter-of-factly. Her world burned up. Jake realized these children had grown up watching their extended family die one by one. How many are left? Just us, Lisa said simply. As far as I know, we are the last of the first Wanderers. The room fell silent. Jake tried to process what he had learned. An entire civilization, more advanced than anything humanity had achieved, had been destroyed by machines that treated planets like food. 3 survivors sat in his small apartment above a repair shop on a forgotten mining station. Lisa, Jake said carefully, You said the Devourers hunt survivors. Are you safe here? Lisa looked at her children, then back at Jake. I thought we were. Our escape ship was designed to avoid detection, but the journey here damaged our systems. When we crashed, our quantum beacon activated automatically. What does that mean? It means they know where we are. Jake felt his stomach drop. They're coming here? I don't know. Maybe. The beacon only transmitted for a few seconds before it burned out, but that might have been enough. Jake stood up and began pacing. His simple life had become incredibly complicated. He was harboring refugees who possessed abilities beyond imagination, and their enemies might be coming to his quiet mining station. What do we do? Lisa looked surprised by the question. We? You're not facing this alone, Jake said firmly. I don't understand most of what you've told me, but I understand this much. You need help, and I'm not going to abandon you. Danny and Emma smiled at him with the same bright intelligence their mother possessed. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. Jake, you don't understand what you're offering. If the Devourers come, they will destroy this entire system. Everyone on Kepler Station will die. Jake stopped pacing and looked at her directly. Then we better figure out how to stop them. Lisa stared at him, as if he had suggested they could stop a hurricane with their bare hands. Jake, these machines destroyed a civilization that had technology you can barely imagine. What makes you think we can fight them? Jake gestured around his modest repair shop. Because you've already shown me that impossible things can happen. A week ago, my shop was failing, and I could barely fix a cargo hauler. Now I'm repairing systems I've never seen before, and it's working because you and your kids can do things. That shouldn't be possible. He sat back down and leaned forward. Maybe your people couldn't stop the Devourers because they tried to fight them with the same kind of technology. Maybe what we need is something different. Something they won't expect. Lisa looked at her children, who were watching the conversation with serious expressions. You really think you can help us? I think we can help each other, Jake said. You need a safe place to figure out your next move. I need to protect my home and the people who live here. Maybe together we can find a solution that neither of yous could manage alone. For the first time since he had met her, Lisa Cameron smiled with genuine hope. The first signs of trouble came from the Deep Space Monitoring Station 3 days after Lisa told Jake about the Devourers. Commander Helen Torres contacted every ship and settlement in the system with the same message. Unidentified objects were approaching from beyond the outer planets. Jake watched the emergency broadcast in his shop while Lisa and her children stood behind him. The display showed 3 massive shapes moving through space at impossible speeds. They were too far away for detailed scans, but their size was clear. Each object was larger than Kepler Station itself. Those are Devourer ships, Lisa whispered. Her face had gone completely white. Danny and Emma moved closer to their mother, suddenly looking like the frightened children they really were, instead of the mysterious beings with strange abilities. Emma started crying quietly. How long do we have? Jake asked. Lisa studied the tracking data. At their current speed, maybe 2 days. But they can move faster if they want to. Jake turned off the display and looked at his small family of refugees. Tell me everything. No more secrets. If we're going to fight these things, I need to know what we're up against. Lisa sat down heavily, as if the weight of her knowledge was crushing her. The Devourers are not organic beings. They are artificial intelligences that exist in ships made from materials that can rebuild themselves. Their hulls absorb energy attacks and convert the power to make themselves stronger. Conventional weapons only make them more dangerous. What about unconventional weapons? The first wanderers tried everything. Quantum bombs, reality distortion fields, weapons that could destroy matter at the atomic level. Nothing worked for more than a few minutes. The Devourer ships adapt faster than we could develop new attacks. Jake walked to his tool wall and picked up a simple wrench. What if we don't try to destroy them? What if we try to confuse them instead? What do you mean? You said they adapt to whatever attacks them. But what if the attack isn't designed to cause damage? What if it's designed to make them think they're seeing something that isn't really there? Lisa looked puzzled. I don't understand. Jake turned to Danny and Emma. You kids can interface with computer systems, right? You can make machines do things they're not supposed to do. Danny nodded. I can talk to them. Most machines want to be helpful. What if we could make the Devourer ships think there was something here that they needed more than this system? Something so important that they would leave to chase it? Lisa shook her head. Jake, these are not simple computers. Devourer artificial intelligence is more complex than anything the first Wanderers ever created. They don't get confused or fooled easily. But they do get hungry, right? You said they consume worlds. What if we could make them think there was a bigger meal somewhere else? Before Lisa could answer, the emergency alarm sounded throughout Kepler Station. Commander Torres' voice came over the communication system with an update that made everyone's blood run cold. All residents, this is an emergency. The unidentified objects have changed course and are accelerating toward our system. We are implementing full evacuation protocols. All civilian ships must leave the system immediately. Jake looked out his window and saw people running toward the landing platforms, where cargo ships and personal vessels were preparing for emergency departure. Panic was spreading through the small mining community as families gathered their possessions and tried to find space on outbound ships. We should go, Lisa said. Find a ship that will take us away from here. No, Jake said firmly. Running didn't save your people before, and it won't save us now. Besides, look outside. There aren't enough ships to evacuate everyone. Half the people on this station are going to be left behind. Lisa followed his gaze and saw the truth. Kepler Station had never been designed for rapid evacuation. The cargo haulers and mining ships could take some people, but hundreds would remain trapped when the Devourer fleet arrived. And we all die together, Lisa said quietly. Not if we fight. With what? This station has minimal defenses. A few mining lasers and some cargo ship weapons. Nothing that could even scratch a Devourer hull. Jake walked to his computer terminal and began pulling up technical specifications for every piece of equipment on Kepler Station. Lisa, you said your people tried to fight the Devourers with advanced technology. But what if advanced technology is exactly the wrong approach? I don't follow. Show me your quantum beacon. The one that brought them here. Lisa hesitated, then went to a storage container she had kept hidden behind spare parts. Inside was a device no larger than Jake's fist, made from materials that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Strange symbols covered its surface, and it hummed with barely contained energy. This is what's left of our ship's navigation system, Lisa explained. When it activated during the crash, it sent our location across subspace faster than light can travel. Jake studied the device carefully. Could you modify it to send false information instead of real coordinates? Theoretically, yes. But what would be the point? Jake smiled for the first time since the emergency began. Because you're going to tell the Devourers that there's something much more valuable than one small mining station waiting for them somewhere. Else, Lisa stared at him. You want to trick them into leaving. I want to save everyone on this station by sending those machines on a wild chase across the galaxy. Jake, even if we could modify the beacon to send false information, what could we tell them that would be more interesting than real human settlements? Jake looked at Danny and Emma, who were listening to the conversation with a serious attention. That he had learned to expect from them. We tell them we found something they've been looking for. Something they thought was destroyed with your home world. What? We tell them there's a surviving first wanderer colony with technology they haven't seen before. A colony that's vulnerable and hiding in a distant system. Lisa's eyes widened as she understood. You want to make them think there are more survivors. I want to make them think there's a prize worth leaving the system to chase. And while they're racing across the galaxy, looking for something that doesn't exist, the people here can evacuate safely. But they'll eventually realize they've been tricked. They'll come back. Maybe, but by then, this system will be empty, and everyone will be safely scattered to places the Devourers can't find. Lisa picked up the quantum beacon and turned it over in her hands. It could work. The beacon's quantum signature would be convincing enough to fool their sensors, at least initially. How long would it take to modify it? With Danny's help, maybe 6 hours. But Jake, there's something you need to understand. Using the beacon to send false information will require enormous amounts of energy. More energy than this station's power grid can provide. Jake felt his hope starting to fade. How much energy? Lisa looked at her children, then back at Jake. It would require someone with first wanderer abilities to channel their life force directly into the device. Whoever powers the beacon won't survive the process. The room fell silent except for the distant sounds of evacuation preparations outside. Jake understood what Lisa was telling him. They could save Kepler Station, but only if she sacrificed herself to power the beacon. There has to be another way, Jake said. There isn't, Lisa replied quietly. This is what I was trained for. This is why the first Wanderers gave certain individuals the ability to interface with our most advanced technology, so that when the time came, we could make the choice to save others. Emma tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mama, I don't want you to go away. Lisa knelt down and hugged both her children. Sometimes people have to do difficult things to protect the people they love. Jake watched the small family and felt something break inside his chest. In less than 2 weeks, these strangers had become the most important people in his world. The thought of losing Lisa felt like losing everything. But outside his shop, hundreds of innocent people were preparing to face an enemy they could not defeat. Families with children no older than Danny and Emma were saying goodbye to their homes, not knowing if they would find safety among the stars. How do we start? Jake asked quietly. Lisa looked at him with gratitude and terrible sadness. We start by turning a simple mining station into the most convincing trap the galaxy has ever seen. The Devourer ships arrived exactly when Lisa predicted they would. Jake watched from his shop window as 3 massive forms blocked out the stars. Each ship was the size of a small moon, their surfaces rippling with energy that bent light around them. They moved with the patience of predators that knew their prey could not escape. The station's defense fleet, consisting of 2 patrol boats and a converted cargo hauler, lasted exactly 47 seconds. Their weapons struck the alien hulls and simply disappeared, absorbed into the flowing metal without leaving a mark. The Devourers responded by releasing clouds of microscopic machines that dissolved the human ships atom by atom. Jake turned away from the window and looked at Lisa, who was making final adjustments to the modified quantum beacon. She had been working for 18 hours straight, with Danny helping her interface with the device's quantum systems and Emma singing the strange melodies that seemed to stabilize the complex energy patterns. It's ready, Lisa said. Her face was pale with exhaustion, but her eyes held a fierce determination. The beacon will transmit coordinates to a system 300 light-years from here. The message will indicate a hidden First Wanderer colony with technology the Devourers have never encountered. Will they believe it? The quantum signature is perfect. Danny helped me encode information that only someone with access to our most advanced databases could know. When the Devourers analyze the transmission, they'll think they've found the discovery of a lifetime. Jake knelt down beside Danny and Emma, Over the past day, he had watched these children face the reality that their mother was going to die. To save strangers. They had cried, but they had also helped her prepare for the sacrifice with a courage that amazed him. "Are you ready?" Jake asked them. Danny nodded with adult seriousness. "We know what to do. When Mama starts the beacon,